Okay, hello everyone. Welcome. My name is James Dearsley. I'm the marketing manager from Bee Craft magazine, and welcome to an outside broadcast. We don't do this very often, but I decided to break out of the office. And yeah, look, Roger, I just showed you this a second ago. There we are. Look, live from Kew. There we go. So, isn't it amazing what the internet can do these days, hey? It's cool. Talking of that, Roger, did you see that? There's been a couple of posts going on about the Internet of Things and beehives. Have you been seeing that recently?
No, I haven't seen that. What's that about?
So, being able to judge strength and health of your hive using these. Yeah.
Through the smartphone, is it?
Yeah. So they have an app which you can have a sensor in your hive, which like heat. And other various little complexities like that, and it'll stream it through into your smartphone, and yeah.
So live on the fly, so you can.
The reason I'm saying it is because I'm sitting here in Kew Gardens, streaming through my mobile phone signal to everybody here watching. So I'm not going to bore everybody with the details, but suffice to say we're at Kew Gardens, and the reason we're here is obviously to run a sort of remote hangout, as I'm secretly at a concert. Can you hear some music in the background? A bit quieter now. But I'm here watching Billy Ocean, of all things. So.
Well, I wouldn't wave your mobile phone around too much because your signal's breaking up. So it's,
Okay, I'll leave it. Don't worry, I won't wave it around. But anyway, the problem is, sadly, regretfully, because the security guards are out, and even though we had prior authorization, the press guys actually pulled our access at the last minute because of the security operation, and they thought that some guy walking around with a computer and talking into it was probably not necessarily a great security thing. But let's just talk about this hive for a minute, because it sounds a fascinating thing. And Roger, you've wanted to go in it, right?
Yeah, when it was seen advertised on the internet a couple of months back that it was coming to Kew, so I was planning a little birthday weekend. So you sort of preempted my birthday celebration by going to see the hive.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Well, why don't you tell people what you know of the hive, and then I'm going to show some photos as you're talking. See if you can see if we can see anything. Can you see this?
Yes, yeah. Well, I know very little about it, actually. I know it's some architectural sculpture which is meant to represent a honeybee colony. My main interest in seeing Kew was to see it in the summer, to be honest. I went to the Eden Project last year, so I thought I'd take a trip to London to see. Well, I lost something.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, it's absolutely fantastic, and you'll see all these pictures here, obviously, which I'm just showing you as I'm going through. Can you see them? Okay.
That's it. Yeah. I've seen it on Facebook with people inside it with their smartphones, taking pictures. You can walk through it and see it. What is the concept of it meant to be then? Is it meant to entirely represent the inside of a beehive? Or?
I think loosely, yeah. I mean, the first thing just to say to anybody who's possibly watching this now and is interested in coming down is it's absolutely spectacular. I must say, I've seen all these pictures which you look at and you think, wow, it's amazing. So if you think of it from an artistic installation, it is quite impressive. It's a real sort of contradiction compared to what you'd expect to see in Kew Gardens, because you're looking around, and this is probably quite a good little photo you might be able to see here. And actually, this one, if it's big enough, you can see you've got the lovely greenery in the grass and the blue sky behind it, with this massive 70-meter sculpture, which is essentially an aluminium sort of lattice.
It's a feat of engineering, I know that much. It looks very complicated.
Oh, it's stunning, and I don't know if there's a picture here, but what I'm quite here we are. This is a good one. So what I'm quite looking forward to later on is the designer, this chap called Wolfgang. I always think Wolfgang is a great name. Wolfgang Buttress designed it, and he basically put, I think it was 1,700 LED lights in the middle of it.
Ah, really?
Which change colour. So that for me, well, not change colour. I mean, they fade away and they glow, sort of dependent on the soundtrack of the hums of the hive. So it's sort of a very sensory performance, which which I think is quite incredible, really. So I think it's one of these classic ones. I mean, a beekeeper friend of mine went to see it the other day, and he just said, "Look, James, it's a spectacle. It's fantastic." He said, and what they've got in there, they've actually got people who are in the hive educating people about what bees do. So it's very much for people who are non-beekeepers going in there and an education side of things. But to sort of put it into perspective, I'm just going to read out a little bit from their site. Sorry. They have accelerometers, which are vibration sensors, which are placed in this beehive that measure an activity of a bee colony. And so it picks up vibrations from the activities of bees and sends this in real time to the hive.
Really?
So, yeah, and so the vibrational signals are converted into lighting effects. And so all of those LEDs I mentioned earlier, so all these guys in here, are a visual representation of the bee colony's activity. So, look, it's a bit arty-farty, let's be brutally honest. But, sort of coming back to the reality of it all, it's another way of getting people interested in what bees are doing and how a beehive operates.
And bees and the environment are very topical at the moment. So I think it's good. It's good to get the public interested in it and to engage them. It looks, as you said, it's a bit arty-farty, but it looks nice, and it's an interesting thing to engage people.
Absolutely. So anyway, apologies to everybody here who was trying to log on. We are at Kew Gardens. You'll see here by the evidence, if you've just joined us, that I am actually here. I'm sitting outside the beautiful, magnificent structure which is over there, which I think is a fascinating feat of engineering. Definitely at the time it was. But sadly, the other feat of engineering that I was meant to be going to see today, we've been unable to access for security reasons because they've got a big concert going on in the background. So it got pulled at the last minute. But we'll try, because I'd like to come and see it and actually be in it and do a proper sort of live broadcast from it. So I'll try and set up another time. But obviously, for those of you who are watching, the whole premise of this is that you can sort of ask any questions that you've got to us, and we'll try and help you and answer you and point you in the right direction. So for me, you've got me and the famous Rodri coming in here. So hey, last month, this was just before Brexit, Rodri.
I know, it's very topical. I've got the TV on at the moment with our new cabinet being elected, live on Bee Craft. Looks.
There you go. Interesting times. But I think we were debating about whether how this would impact the honey industry. In all seriousness, because there are beekeeping equipment which is sort of outsourced and brought in, and there was a serious element to it. So.
I heard an interesting one today. Actually, I know somebody imports inverted syrup from the continent, and whether the price of that will be affected by the new exchange rates. So that'll be an interesting one to watch over the next couple of months. You may see equipment prices rise slightly, so who knows?
Well, if we're importing, and obviously the pound devalues, then yeah, it will do, because it's going to have a big emphasis on us. So we'll see where we are. But anyway, let's just sort of crack on. So for those of you who are watching this live on our site, and I can see there are quite a few of already, do please feel that you can answer any questions to us. And if we don't know the answer now, what we will do is we'll always feature it in the magazine. We're actually doing a follow-up sequence for this with Claire, who's our editor, so she'll happily put it all in. So let's just sort of go through some things. So Heather, I think you just popped us an email a couple of seconds ago. Actually, for those of you who are watching live, on where the video there, myself and Rodri are, just underneath it, there's an Ask Any Question. And so do pop any questions you have in there. Or equally, if you've got any comments, please just let us know comments on this as well. We're happily sort of, if we don't know the answer and put it out to you guys, just let us know what your thoughts are. So, Heather, thanks for asking this for us. Just get started. How soon should I make the entrance to my hive smaller? Obviously, it's coming along. It won't be far off. How soon do you put that in, Rodri? How soon do you get your hive entrance down?
It's been a funny one this year, to be honest. I think we said over the last couple of Hangouts, it's been very unpredictable. We've got some very strong colonies and some really weak colonies. At the moment, I've still got the majority of my entrance reducers still in, because quite a number of weak colonies, and I suspect quite a few people have got the same. But I think I tend to, on a typical year when you've got a strong colony and you've got a full entrance opening, I would tend to reduce them round about the beginning of August, just before you take the main honey crop off, to deter any robin and any issues with wasps. But,
yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say this is sort of explain the concept of reducing the hive entrance, and mainly sort of wasps having an impact in the sort of late summer when they start trying to rob hives, isn't it? So
that's it. But I think it's going to be a really strange year, to be honest. I know, as I said, I've got some strong colonies and some weak colonies, and everyone is finding things changing slightly. It's very.
Well, I'll tell you what. Funny you say that. We've had a couple of questions in about queens. We've had Sarah. Thanks for your. In fact, I'll rattle them off because there's literally 2 or 3. So Sarah says, "My queens have died in 2 hives. Is it too late to requeen?" And I'll go on. There's quite a few little minutiae bits in her question, but there was another chap earlier on. Let's just have a little look here. Where was it? Today.
Queens at the moment have been an absolute nightmare. There's been so much supersedure, and most of my hives are requeened. So it's.
Yeah, that's it, Kev. So Kev Gilbert has popped in and said, "What's happening to queens again this year? I thought last year was bad for queen loss, but this year seems worse. Other beekeepers are coming to me for queens because they're having the same problem."
I think it's the weather more than anything. It's we had the issue with poorly mated queens last year because of the wet summer, and I think with the amount of rainfall we've had, particularly in South Wales of late, I think there's going to be issues next year as well with poorly mated queens and a lot of supersedure.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? So would you requeen at this point?
I would, yes. I've actually just purchased 2 queens that I imported. So I'm in the process of requeening at the moment.
So you import your queens as well. Interesting. Okay.
We could be lucky, you know. We could have a bit of an Indian summer, and we could have a late flow with the ivy and the heather. So it's there's opportunity for them to build up just before the winter.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because I suppose the question you've got to ask is, do you requeen, or do you sort of merge 2 hives together a little bit later?
Exactly.
It's a tricky one, I suppose, isn't it?
It depends. Do you want the large numbers of hives? So you try not to unite them, or if you want to reduce the numbers, you would unite them. But
yeah, I suppose it's individual preference, isn't it? And also equally how competent you are, because obviously the merging of hives isn't necessarily the most straightforward if you're a beginner. Some people may just feel a little bit more happy requeening, so it's
exactly. It is. I'll say it again. It's been a very strange year. I've seen things this year which I've never seen before. It's in particular, I picked up a swarm a few days ago, and I put it into a nuke box, left it for a few days with a queen excluder on the front for the queen to start laying, and you would expect then that they wouldn't abscond because there's eggs is brewed within the nuke box. I opened up the entrance, removed the queen excluder, went back a few days later, and they'd absconded. It brewed there. Very strange things.
So one of those years. So Sarah, I'm not sure if that helps in any way, but I mean certainly I mean Christ, we're only the middle of July.
Middle of July.
Again, it probably depends on where you are as well. I think if you're down south, I would have said historically you've probably got a longer season that you may sort of reap the benefit of requeening now. So yeah, depends on where you are, how competent you are, and how confident you are in sort of the various sort of manoeuvres. But actually, I've just looked here. She's got no capped brood either. So if you've got another hive, try and bring sort of brood in from another one. Would you say is a fair point with that? Audrey?
Are there eggs within the colony? When she says there's no capped brood, is there eggs there?
It just says I have no capped brood. Hive 1 swarmed, and I saw the new queen. Then I saw a queen being killed outside another hive in close proximity. So I'm guessing she may have flown back into the wrong hive, but I've no idea what happened to the other queen. As of 6th of June, there was lots of capped brood. So yeah, it's quite a difficult one, that, isn't it? Because if there's no capped brood, there's not a lot to sort of keep that sustainable.
No, I'd look out for eggs or larvae, eggs in particular. If there aren't any, you could remove a frame of eggs from the other hive, put it in, as you said, and see if they rear emergency queen cells then.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what, I've just got to do this. I think this looks fantastic. I don't know if you can see this, and let's just stand up and turn around, because the sun is setting, and it's an absolutely glorious evening in Kew. It's absolutely stunning. I don't know, because I've had to turn my bandwidth down a little bit to stream through the phone, but it's an absolute lovely belter of an evening over here. So Yeah, stunning. Right, let's just have a look through. So, Pauline, hi, Pauline. I see you're watching online, which is great. So, sorry you couldn't join us tonight. Let's have a little look. Let's just go through it. So, Don, hi, Don. You're back again. Thanks for joining us again. I know you were sort of here last year as well. Last month. Okay. Oh Christ. He literally says, if you want to fill your time, here's another offering from him. So he wants to now have a new referendum on the Varroa tray in or the Varroa tray out, or year round. Okay. Rodri, in or out?
It's because it's been such a strange year. As I said, with the entrance reducers, I've left them in. I've actually left my Varroa trays in this year.
Well, let's just clarify for a second. If you've got any sort of beginners, what do we mean by the Varroa tray, and why would you have it in, and why would you have it out?
Varroa tray is the screen at the bottom of the. Can you hear me? There's strange noises.
Yeah. No, I can hear you fine.
Varroa tray is the screen at the bottom of an open mesh floor. You use it for sort of monitoring your mic drop. There's some very strange noises coming from over there.
There's some very strange people walking by, all looking at me rather strange as I'm sort of headlong in a bush. So yeah, it's probably my end. Sorry, Rodri, carry on. So yeah, so why would you have it in? Why would you have it out?
Typically, you take the Varroa tray out. So you leave an open mesh floor. Any Varroa, then phreatic mites can fall off and they exit the hive. You put the Varroa tray in to do a 24-hour or 48-hour mite drop count. Ordinarily, the tray is left out. But I said,
but you've left yours in this year, okay?
Yeah, what I typically tend to do is I slide my Varroa tray in over the winter, just to sort of stop that circulation of air going through, because we have quite wet and windy winters in South Wales, as you can imagine. So coming out of the winter, I've just left them in this year. The theory being it might help keep the colony slightly warmer and therefore help them expand. Because as I've said, I've got some very strong colonies and some very weak colonies.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to know what other people do as well, because, as you know, everybody's got a different beekeeping style.
And equally hive as well. Different sort of hive. Polyhives, wooden hives, and everyone's. And there was a big issue around ventilation, and that's one of the big problems I used to have with the polyhives. It's a shame Wendy's not joining us today, because I know she runs exclusively polyhives.
Well, she's the poly expert, so yeah.
She's the poly expert. We're missing our poly queen. She's not here. She might join us later. We can probably do that. But let's put that out. I mean, if you're watching, and I know there's quite a few of you watching, what do you think? Leave it in, leave it out? Which is your sort of preference, or do you sort of leave it in over the winter to sort of keep the warmth in? Let's just sort of see what you guys are thinking. So I'm just going to go back. So Don actually saying he never has any issues with damper condensation, but he's for in. So we'll have to see what he does.
I know quite a few people actually still use solid floors, with the theory being, that the open mesh floor causes a draft and it keeps the hive cooler, so they build up slower. So, but it's not something I've tried myself. But as I've said, I've left them in this year.
So do I dare say it's a rather traditional viewpoint of sort of the solid floors?
I think so. Yeah. The traditionalists.
Well, I mean, I'm not being rude about it. It's just it seems to be a very traditional viewpoint, which is you have solid floors in a hive. End of story. So, okay. So Sarah's come back to us. Wasps. She's seen her first wasp today. Is it time to set wasp traps? I have to say,
interestingly, I've seen very few wasps around. I've
hardly seen any. We've hardly seen literally none.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I've seen hardly any. Compared to last year, where we had an abundance of wasps from memory, but
I don't know about you. I always have my sort of wasp traps out anyway, so I tend to. They're sort of like a permanent inclusion. So one of those things.
I didn't bother last year actually, because the year before I kept forgetting to empty them, so they become quite ineffective then. But
yeah, it doesn't really work. They get the hint after a while, don't they?
Yeah.
Actually, Sarah's just clarified as well. She's actually got no eggs as well in that hive. So no eggs, no brood, and that'll mean a very quickly dwindling hive. I've been there, Sarah. It's not nice to see. Every week you'll go back and it will just be worse and worse and worse. I mean, I'm not sure. If you think about the life cycle of an egg into brood into bee, it's going to take time. I don't know what you think, Roderick,
Yeah,
but
if the hive is still quite strong, there may be opportunity to move a frame of eggs over from the other colony. But if they are dwindling rapidly, then she could unite them.
yeah, I think that's.
Yeah.
I put it this way. I tried, and I just in about 4 years ago, I didn't unite. I left it, tried to put some eggs over, and it was too late. And it was only experience now would tell me that probably uniting is a more guaranteed way of solving the problem. Obviously, we can't see it without a complete hive. So, it's a difficult one, Sarah, and I know it's not nice to see. So, okay, let's have a little look. Kev says, I have a hive that has chalk brood. Other than requeening, is there anything I can do to ease the problem? I actually haven't seen a lot of chalk brood recently. How are you getting on with your chalk brood?
Yeah, thinking about it, no. The past, trying to think back to last year, actually, because where it was so wet, damp conditions tend to promote chalk brood as well. But this year, I haven't suffered with it much, to be honest. They do recommend requeening and try and keep the hive, well ventilated to prevent damp conditions.
Would you do anything else more extreme to sort of get rid of all the chalk brood?
To be honest,
it's not harmful, is it, necessarily?
No, it's not harmful. It doesn't look very nice, when you're going through it. If you've got a colony heavily infested with it, the bees, if you've got very hygienic bees, they will remove the chalk brood mummies themselves anyway. So if it's not a major issue, it's something which they'll sort themselves. So.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't be too worried about it. So, okay, just a follow up on the hive in or out debate. Sorry, the
second referendum.
The second referendum. Actually, yeah, we're giving them a second referendum. We don't get one. So Martin Gilmore, keep in when the hive is weak and take out when the hive is strong, and depends upon the temperature. So I think that's
yeah, that seems reasonable.
I think so. Thanks, Martin, for that. And like I said, if any of you have got a comment on this, please do just put a comment in the ask a question section just underneath where this video is being played. So we'll put that all in there. Okay, good. So, oh, bless Pauline, she's come in. 3 nests of wasps in her garden have all died early. Yeah, I'm just not seeing it at all. No wasps. But then, having said that, I always say that, and then annoyingly, when you get into that honey time, suddenly wasps just come out of nowhere. Sort of go with it. So, okay, let's have a little look. Right.
While we're on the subject of pests as well, I don't know about yourself. I know you cruise in Facebook and social media a lot, but I've seen a lot of reports of Asian hornet. I think there'll be one in the Channel Islands as well. Bit of scaremongering going on, maybe, but it's good to know that people are actively looking out for it now. So.
The problem is, though, we can do ourselves more damage than good. And as much as I like social media, genuinely, it can really scaremonger. And I think it's a bit with many things in beekeeping. When we have a strong opinion about things, as a lot of beekeepers tend to. We can all jump on a bandwagon and take social media comment as gospel, and I think it's a real worry in my mind.
Yeah, you almost take it back. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember in the last hangout we had exactly the same thing at the end, and we had a question from one of the viewers who actually said, "Oh, I've heard about Asian hornet coming onto the south, and it's finally made it." And I was like, "Well," and I remember it was Wendy as well. She and I both said, "Well, we haven't heard. We haven't heard anything from DEFRA or Bee-Base or anything like that." So really, until we've heard, and generally, and I mean this in the nicest way, we would probably hear before most, because we'll get the sort of the press release in terms of saying it's out, keep an eye out. But I haven't heard anything. Have you?
No, only the standard reports that are coming up on social media, which they're probably fictitious, but it's difficult, isn't it? I think it's good that the public are aware of it and they're actively looking out for it.
Yeah, fair enough. I tell you what, the one thing is quite handy is on social media, on Twitter's, Facebook's, wherever, you get some quite good photos of the Asian hornet and the sort of the common hornet, and knowing the difference, because the amount of people I have coming up to you and saying, "I've got this, is that the bad one?" And I'm like, "No, it's okay, don't worry, relax." It's a key thing. So actually, I'm now getting surrounded by midges just while I'm here. Okay, let's just go through here. So. Oh, bless, yeah. So, Don, thank you. When we talk, would it be possible to clarify from the outset if what you're saying is fact, probably fact, or personal opinion? The majority of this, incidentally, is probably fact and personal opinion. I would mix.
I think beekeeping is always an element of personal opinion because everybody does everything differently. So
yeah, I think so.
you'd never have two beekeepers giving the same answer. So.
No, I mean, just to clarify that as well, I mean, obviously, we at Bee Craft, we are run by beekeepers. Most of the editorial team are either master beekeepers or very, very high up. You know, and we try on these hangouts to bring people in who can talk about it all with knowledge. And anybody here watching, if you want to join us and have this chat, you know, the more I have on here, I promise you, the easier these sorts of things occur. So let's just have a little look. So yeah, probably fact or personal opinion, I would say, is the best thing here. Okay, so we've got a key issue here with feeding. So we are coming into the autumn period. Let's just have a little look. Right. This is obviously all in preparation because once we've taken off the honey crop, we need to think about feeding. Should it not be the case to promote the idea that we leave our bees with the free stuff they make for purpose, i.e. honey, and we do not have to purchase a product that may well come from miles away with all that is entailed with transport, let alone be a foreign substance to our bees with all its potential issues. The whole idea of us feeding sugar to bees seems odd and downright wrong. Is our appetite for honey so great that it's at the expense of feeding them sugar? Crikey, we get another heavily moral...
That's an intense question. It's philosophical.
Okay. Well, let me give you a personal opinion on this one. I tend to agree. I think people who go for beekeeping purely to get honey and purely to take products from a hive, I think it's wrong. I think being responsible, like any, want to call it a pet owner, should be, I think is right. And never take too much.
No, yeah, I would agree with that. I think I tend to take the view that I'm a hobbyist beekeeper. I treat my bees as pets. You know, I look after them well, and I tend to leave quite a high percentage of their own honey on the hive, and then supplement it with sugar syrup or a purchased product. But I think the other side of it as well is with the commercial element. You know, it has to be commercially viable, so I can understand why they take off the quantities of honey that they do.
It's tricky, right? I mean, I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. Well, no, there is a wrong answer, which is people not leaving enough for the bees and not replacing it with something which is responsible. You know, is sugar syrup ever going to replace honey? No, because, you know, it's a manufactured product.
But it has no nutritional values at the end of the day.
Especially, I mean, I often find in the springtime when you're obviously mixing the sugar syrup slightly differently. You've got a lot of people put the pollen patties involved. Actually, do you use those?
I don't. No. It's we haven't got a shortage of early pollen around here, to be honest. And people do add it to supplement brood rearing, but it's not something I've done.
No, I have to say I did it a few years back, and it worked really, really well. One of the colony from my wooden hives is always a notoriously slow sort of getting going. And that certainly seemed, I mean, I'm in isolation, so I can't really necessarily compare it, but it seemed to work very, very well. So, yeah, difficult one though.
Yeah,
thanks. I think that's one of those questions where literally if we had 8 of us on a panel like this every month and we just asked one question that was that, I mean, you'd literally just carry on going for hours. So it's probably best that we cut it there.
I would agree with one element, mind. I think there is a lust for honey out there. I know that the demand does exceed the supply.
Yeah. But then there's always a demand, isn't there? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, just had a question in from Barry, and I'm going to sort of bring Barry's in quite early on because obviously he's only started beekeeping this year in Ireland. So thanks, Barry, for tuning in. So he started beekeeping this year with a very strong colony. Oof, crikey, that's not always easy. And a 2015 queen. Just had my colony start to form queen cells. Okay, early July. Is it too late to get a new queen and to get mated and do well? Thanks. Oh, multiple sort of suggestions here, isn't it, Rodri, on this one?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds...
I think the first thing, what sort of queen cell are they? Are they supersedure? Are they swarm cells? If it's supersedure, I would tend to leave well alone and let them supersede naturally. if it's a swarming situation, then there's various methods that you can implement. I think we've discussed swarming before. Perhaps we
have, yeah.
the previous hangouts with a couple of the techniques in there.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because what you've put here, Barry, is obviously with a very strong colony. Now that, to me, that suggests, I'm reading between the lines, maybe they've run out of room and they're actually swarming.
Yeah.
Because bees have started late. It's Dublin. You're quite high up. You're sort of in line with Manchester, probably a little bit cooler there. Your colony's got going and is now bursting at the seams. So it may be a swarming situation. So you probably want to do something about it.
But then again, on the flip side, this year I've seen some very strong colonies that are superseding, and there's an awful lot of supersedure around this year.
Yeah, that's true. Well, tell you what, just on that, you mentioned, just for Barry, some sort of knowledge, really. You mentioned, is it a swarm cell? Is it a supersedure? How would you ordinarily sort of ascertain that from your own colonies, Roger?
If you imagine a frame in front of you, if there were, say, 2 or 3 cells within the center of the frame, they tend to be supersedure. If you've got multiple cells, a large number of queen cells on the outer edges or the bottom of the frame, they tend to be swarm cells. That's the textbook definition.
It's exactly what I was going to bring on. So the outside is all supersedure. Well, in my experience, anyway.
But then again, every colony does things slightly different.
Are you giving your personal opinion and you're covering up?
Yeah, that's it.
I'll tell you what, over the Barry, I'll make sure I share the. There's a couple of videos I can show you for swarming. We've done a couple of hangouts, which hopefully will help. So, just a bit of feedback. So Kev's come back and said that he's tried patties and bees did not touch them. As for feeding, he had to this year. All around the apiary field after field of grain crops, so not a lot for the bees. Yeah, it's difficult when you're in an agricultural area, isn't it?
I know there was, a few weeks ago there was a bee unit starvation warning out. I don't know if you had it in your area or not. But
yeah, we put it out. Yeah, it's nationwide.
It was nationwide, was it?
Yeah. The traditional June gap obviously was a little bit later than normal, but to be fair, Roger, I don't know if I'm speaking out of term here, but I now get that every year. A starvation warning. So. I don't know if it's just to jog people into checking if they're not checking enough. But maybe being a bit contentious there, but it seems that every time around the June gap, which for those who are not used to it, is there's a big sort of there's a honey flow on sort of that May period. Then there's this June gap, which is a period, and then it comes in again when the late flowering plants go. So I don't know. I'm being a bit sceptical there.
Well,
Pauline,
usually one of the first crops after the June gap is the blackberry. I know that's been out for a good 2 to 3 weeks here, so we've got quite a strong nectar flow on at the moment. I don't know what it's like by you in Surrey.
Well, the weather's been so bad, it's a bit interchangeable. Even between beekeepers, it's not really straightforward. Yeah. But Pauline gives some feedback. Leave enough for the bees. Always make sure they have enough brood. They have a brood box full of stores and a super 2 if they need it. Keep strong colonies which produce a surplus and take the surplus, but do feed if they need it. Like in June, the June gap comes in again. There we are. Let's just have a little look. Martin's come back on again. He's still requeening some of his hires from failed queens. Queens not returning. Predation will continue to try until early September before thinking of the uniting as we discussed earlier on. So Martin, thanks for that. I think I'm pretty similar with that, which I'd rather do a more simple procedure than a more complex one. But to be fair, I think Sarah's situation there is it's quite a difficult one, really.
It depends on your region as well. I know we've got a lot of Himalayan balsam here around the valleys and the rivers, so we get quite a late season. It does extend into October if we have the weather. So
yeah.
So I try to leave any uniting until as late as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so 35 minutes in. I think we'll probably do that because obviously I'm stuck with my head nearly in a bush. The light is about to fade. The sun is setting. So did you take a first honey crop of the year, Rodri, or have you left it? And are you looking to take one?
I did. I took my spring honey off, I think about 2 weeks ago from memory. And it was a disastrous return. I had a total of £50 back. So...
From how many hives?
But I did manage to get some very nice medium honey to enter into the Royal Welsh next week. So
good luck.
So yeah,
Good luck.
How about yourself?
All
You
right.
off or no?
No, I haven't. I haven't kept my colonies going strong enough, so I'm not really expecting anything. I'll just sort of leave it on. I think my where we are, there's a big farm behind us which has got some beautiful apple orchards,
No.
but it was shocking. Our normal spring flow just didn't really sort of come into anything. So I leave it, and I'll try and see what happens in this sort of second time. So we'll see.
Disappointing because the spring started so well, you know, that glorious weather that we had, and then now it's disastrous.
I will never forget. It was 3 years ago, and there was that massive heat wave, and I've never seen anything like it. I mean, the blossom honey was just. It was one of the first times I've ever had 2 crops in a year.
Ah, I think everybody dreams of that optimum summer, don't they?
Well, it was. I mean, I don't know if you remember it. So we had a heat wave in the sort of the April, May time. So there's a massive flow on. I had all this lovely apple blossom and cherry blossom honey. It's absolutely fantastic. And then we've got a farmer who's on the other side who plants loads of wildflower meadows.
Ah.
So we had all of that flow later on in the year. So I was sitting there going, this is wonderful. But now, sort of neither farmer's any good. They've sort of forgotten what to do. So I don't really get as much as I used to. It's a shame. But there you go. Anyway. All right. Well, look. Best of luck with your Welsh honey show next week. That'll be good. Let us know how you get on.
And if anyone,
thank you for joining us.
If anyone attends the show, come along, say hello. I'm always willing to have a chat. So it's an extended invitation.
We'll continue the second referendum.
That's
while
it.
your honey show. Yeah, absolutely. All right, lovely. For those of you who are watching, obviously, Bee Craft Magazine, we're here every month, and this is what we do. So please spread the word, let people know, and like I said, if you want to join us, please just pop me an email, james@bee-craft.com, and I'll give you all the instructions as to how to join us, and you'll be more than welcome. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time, and see you next month.